share the money.
Thank you for staying with us. Now, it's another year of the Muslim faithful all over the world. They are celebrating the Eid al-Fitr. Now, that comes just at the end of a period of fasting. But owing to the pandemic, it's been really, really low-key. And in fact, if you're not careful, you might even forget that your Muslim brother or sister is in a solemn period, and you need to be careful around them and then encourage them as well as they seek God. But we have here in the studio to help us understand what the situation, how it's been, and what the lessons are from this period, even as we move forward, is Barrister Alatoye Folorunsho Aziz, the Amir Ahmadiyya Muslim Jamaat Nigeria. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much.
So, for the first time in like forever, the Ramadan came at a period of isolation, so to speak.
That's right.
How did that work out?
Okay, thanks very much. This Ramadan is a very unique one, especially to people of this generation, because it has never happened, at least in my own time, which is over 50 years now, that we will not go to mosque for prayers. It has never happened. That we will not be congregating to say Eid prayers. It has never happened.
That you will not congregate to break your fast.
Yes, to break our fast, exactly, and then celebrate together. It has never happened. But it has happened so many years ago. So this one increases us in knowledge, because we have to go back and start researching. Can government look at other ways, of handling it? We then discover that the best way to handle it is what the government has done, based on research and based on Islamic teachings. But it also gives us a whole lot of opportunities, because we were confined. Those ordinarily who will not be learning, reading the Holy Quran, has a lot of time to read the Holy Quran, has a lot of time to read the meanings of the Holy Quran, has a lot of time to listen to lectures. A lot of lectures were done online and we were sharing. So people actually have a lot of time to learn this time around. So as we have the negative side of it, in terms of confining people, not being able to go to mosque, not being able to do congregational prayers, it also affords us a lot of opportunity to learn and reflect.
This keeping away from the mosque or keeping away from the gatherings to break the fast do not in any way reduce the efficacy of this period?
Not at all. Not at all. It doesn't. The only thing is when you do congregational prayers, there are more rewards. And that has to do with the concept of society, concept of citizenship. And that is what Islam is all about. Unity of mankind. So we foster that every 5 hours a day. And that's the lesson we have in there. But invariably we couldn't do that. But despite that, it didn't reduce the value of the reward that anybody, can earn during the Ramadan.
But 1 or 2 states have said that people can go to the mosque tomorrow.
Yes. I think our people had also called me and said, can we go to the mosque? I said, well, the rule is obey the last order. However, you must obey the health instructions. You have to keep distance, and then you should use your face masks, you should use sanitizers, both hand sanitizer and spray sanitizer, to make sure that you should wash your hand, and so on and so forth. You check your temperatures. So all these instructions, you have to follow them in full, where the state government had said, we can't lock down for too long, and these are 2 states which are test case. So let's see how it goes. So because we have to obey the last order. That's what Islam is about. So I think let's hope good will come out of it.
But I'm sorry, just to clarify here, there's someone who's asking a question. I mean, the Sultan, who's considered the head of the Islamic faith here in Nigeria has said, stay away from the mosque. But the government is saying, can go to mosque. How do they balance that out?
I would have expected the governors to obey the Sultan. I would have. Because ordinarily, I expect all Muslims in Nigeria, without exclusion, to obey the Sultan in terms of this administrative, procedure, because it is in the interest of Muslims. However, where some governors choose not to obey the Sultan, now, if you disobey them and you are under them, it's going to look, somehow odd, as if you are entering into a political arena or something like that. It will not look good. But I don't feel good that some governors, especially if they are Muslims, because we just have to obey. Obedience is part of, life and success. Without that, there is going to be chaos.
Okay. Let's go back to the Eid itself.
Okay.
Eid alFitr.
That's right.
Number one, what does it mean?
Okay.
And what is its significance?
Okay, thanks very much. Eid al-Fitr actually marks the end of Ramadan. It comes on the first day of Shawwal, which means when we finish the Ramadan, we go to thank Almighty Allah. It's about prayers as well. We end everything with prayers, with happiness, with joy, and then trying to celebrate, on that day that Allah had spared us for all this period to earn this reward of the month of Ramadan. And what do we do there is actually to offer two rakats, two prayers. And these two prayers, there is a way we do it. The first one, you do 7, takbir. The second one, you do 5 takbir. All this takbir means we are praising Almighty Allah. And in the mood of celebration, we ensure that everybody actually celebrates happily. And that takes us to the concept of Sadaqatul Fitri. This Sadaqatul Fitri, we contribute, some money, and it's shared. And for those families who are not able to afford, then you have to give them Sadaqatul Fitri so that they can also eat that day. And that is where the aspect of joyous celebration comes in. Actually, during this pandemic, we used the Sadaqatul Fitri model to share, resources to our people, because head of each mosque knows which family is not, that resourceful, that we need to support. So nationwide, what we did was that we have regions, we have local Jamaat. So those people who needs, they compile them, send it to the region and send it to the headquarters. And we said, okay, send everything to them. We shouldn't have any complaint at all, all over the country. If anybody complains from anywhere, we have the Sadaqatul Fitri committee. So that committee is going to approach the president of the local Jamaat. Then that one will approach the circuit, and the circuit will forward it to the headquarters. So, okay, send the account number of that person. I will just send the resources to that person. You buy what you need to buy. So that is the lesson we are learning from here. So when I saw the government struggling to really share, I said, if we had used the Sadaqatul Fitri method, we would have been able to reach all families in Nigeria.
So, is the Jamaat distributing any goodies tomorrow, for instance?
For tomorrow is actually everybody that is supposed to celebrate. As I have said, all mosques, all zones, we do Sadaqatul Fitri. And it's actually going to be later today that they will share it, because we have to give those people before we go to Eid, and they will have bought what they will buy. So it's not going to be tomorrow that the sharing will be done. It has to be today, later today, probably after a break of fast. The person who is the president of the mosque, the person in charge of the resources, we call them Secretary Mal, those who are in charge of finance, they will sit down with some other people, and then they will allocate to each of those families and give it to them today, so that they can buy what they will buy and they can celebrate happily tomorrow.
Okay, so you said this period, the pandemic was an opportunity for research and all of that.
That's right.
Now, when the last time there was this kind of situation was 1918 or thereabout, much earlier.
That's right.
There wasn't that much of technology.
That's right.
So, are the Muslim leaders considering the use of technology going forward? I mean, to reduce, as some people say, this restrictions are likely to follow us. So there might be fewer gatherings and all that. So is that going to be employed in the going forward?
Yes, it is going to be employed if it happens again, because this is a lesson that we've learned, and I think we should not also go back on those learning points. Now, it has shown that we can actually conduct meetings, because basically we believe that as human beings we have to relate with each other, say salam to each other, shake and hug each other as a sign of love. But it has shown us that we can do a whole lot with technology, because all throughout the Ramadan period we did lectures and we use Zoom, Microsoft Teams, all those other meeting for us to actually hold meetings. So it is convenient for us to hold our various meetings. Okay. And so we will not want to go back on that. It has shown us that somebody do not have to travel down, from Maiduguri to Lagos as we used to do when we have our monthly meetings. So we can look at it and how do we perfect this? Because it's quite cheaper for us.
Okay, just hold your thought. We'll take a moment and come back to look at the use of technology in the practice of our faith going forward. Do stay with us. Thank you for staying with us. We still have the Amir Ahmadiyya Muslim Jamaat Nigeria, Barrister Olatoye Folorunshah Aziz. Before we went on that break, we were talking about employing technology in the practice of our faith. But let's look a bit at that 1918, 1919 pandemic.
To 1919. That's right.
What happened at that time? I mean, people going for pilgrimage or for that's the Lesser Hajj, right?
Yes,
people going for the
Umrah.
People going for the Umrah at that time would definitely be sort of restricted.
That's right.
But now there's technology. So let's see. Paint us a picture. How then and now? How did it work?
I think there has been a very huge, differences between 1918 and 1919 pandemic and the current pandemic in terms of technology. Because at that time, when you are shut down, there are no technology to communicate. But this time around, there are a lot of technology to communicate. For instance, the Kaaba was shut down, the Haram in Mecca, and as well as the Haram in Medina was also shut down. But we can see the activities going on in those places online. And we can see the social distancing when they need to go, very few number of people and all those things. But in 1918 to 1919, there was no such opportunities. And a lot of things is when there is any announcement from Kaaba, for example, from Haram in Mecca, we quickly get to know of those announcements. We quickly get to know, we know what's going on. So information moves very fast. For instance, like this Eid al-Fitr that we are celebrating tomorrow, on Sunday, we got to know that Mecca did not sight moon. And I know that the hours between us is only 2 hours. So, and then again, when the Sultan also, announced that a moon was not sighted in Nigeria, it was so easy for us to understand. So technology had actually linked quite a lot of things and make life much easier. And I said, this is the reason why I said we shouldn't go back on those gains that we have made on technology.
So within this period, before the lockdown proper, right, some people had already traveled for their Umrah. Right. So how were they able to carry on and some of them are still there?
Okay.
So what's the arrangement like for those that are there?
There will be 2 categories, of people when they get there. For those who are very close to Haram and Kaaba, from their hotels that they can see Kaaba right there. For instance, most of our executives in Nigeria, when they go, they already have some rooms booked, and there you'll be looking at the Kaaba. So you can pray, from your room. Actually, the microphone of Kaaba is in their room. So they can pray. Those categories of people, they will be able to pray, very conveniently, even on that lockdown, in those hotels. And then they will just be serving them in their rooms. They don't need to go out. They don't need to do tawaf. They don't need to mix with anybody. So those are the first category of people who will still be able to, pray. But they will not be able to do all those rites of Umrah. For instance, performing circuit around the Kaaba 7 times, taking Zamzam, and so on and so forth. They will not be restored. That is even for main Hajj.
Okay.
This one, they will not get to Arafat section where they will stone their Hajj. So they won't be able to perform those rites other than to pray. That's the only thing they could do. The other categories are those who are not close to Kaaba at all. And they just have to pray wherever they are if they are not able to find their ways back to Nigeria. So I think those are the 2 categories, of people that we have out there.
Festus Akimboyewa says, while it will be extremely challenging and distressing for Muslims to celebrate Eid at home, they must continue to make spiritual sacrifices until the fight against COVID-19 is won.
That's right. He's absolutely correct. We need to continue to make a sacrifice. The sacrifices in terms of what I mentioned earlier on, making sure that nobody actually, goes hungry. Because you can see at the time there was hunger, I felt very bad about it. Bad in the sense that, these people who are hungry, is it that they don't belong to one religious group or the other that could make arrangement for them? Assuming the government is able to realize its failure now. The failure of the local government in being able to know who are living within those local governments. And that was the reason for the whole pandemic failure. But assuming the government has failed, because if the federal government gives something to the state government can only get to the people through the local government. So if that arrangement works very well, everybody will be fine. You'll be seeing food at your doorstep and all those kind of. But assuming the government had failed, what about the religious groups? We should be able to have a scheme of reaching all our people. And so this is where I agree absolutely that this sense of sacrifice has to continue. And it doesn't have to do with your own group alone. Anybody that is our neighbor, we have to take care of them. And that is when we can arrest the situation of those kind of unrest. And so many other groups as well, we need to find a way of addressing people's poverty, because it is the right of people to eat, it is the right of people to drink, it is the right of people to have shelter, and it is the right of people, according to the Holy Quran, to have wares. So all these things, they're right. They don't have to even beg for it. So both the government and the religious group should work together to make sure that everybody in this country has what we have called the minimum standard of living. So I absolutely agree that the sacrifice should continue, and this is one of the lessons of Ramadan that I will say should continue after even this Ramadan. We must be our brother's keeper, our sibling, our close family, our extended family, our religious group people, our professional people. They shouldn't be suffering, as much as we could. We should try our best. And that is what religion is all about, to make sure that everybody is fine. And then we will be able to eliminate crisis.
An important part of Ramadan is the breaking of the fast.
That's right.
Because I have experienced Ramadan with a friend who is married to a Muslim.
Okay.
And from about 3 o'clock,
Okay.
the cooking begins.
That's right.
And you would think there was going to be a party.
Okay.
First course, second course, third course, first course, and there's a huge spread. And anybody who walks in is able to partake in the breaking of the fast.
That's right.
That must be a very important part of the Ramadan, which you all must have really missed.
That's right.
So how did you adapt to that change in your, I mean, this has been the tradition since you were a practicing Muslim.
That's right.
And this year you weren't able to do that.
That's right.
How easy was it for you to adapt to the new normal?
No, that's right. Those are the kind of trainings that I said, we've gone through during these pandemic, also
Lockdown.
that lockdown that comes with Ramadan. There are a lot of things that are privileges that we take
now
to be
you know that
right.
they are privileges.
Yes, they are privileges, but we think they are right. So it's just the mercy of Allah on each and every one of us when we are doing those things. And this is another learning point, because there are a whole lot of learning points of Ramadan this year that in almost all the years we've been, doesn't come up. So we then need to now know that, look, there is other side of life. And we should think about others. We should think about others. Because at the time we were enjoying all those things, together, friends, class of people, probably you don't remember some other people are somewhere. But this time around, during that lockdown, and there was crisis, some people have not eaten. They have not even broken their fast. So many text messages. We have not eaten, nothing to eat. So you then remember that, look, oh, okay, so the time I was, breaking fast in those various course meals and all the rest. So some people are not, eating as well, but because there was no pandemic, there is no platform for them to complain. That's why I said this pandemic, there are negative sides to it, but there are also positive learning points that made us to know that, look, our system needs to be improved. And we have to operate as a humanity, as one. We should take care of everybody to make sure that while you are eating your fantastic course meal, you also remember those that need basic foods to survive and break their fasts.
Mr. Owo is asking a question. He says, can a Muslim perform the rites of going around the Kaaba 7 times on their own by improvising?
By device?
No, you're improvising.
How do you improvise Kaaba?
How do you improvise it? Is it possible?
No, it's not done. I mean, let me say that I don't have the experience and I have not read it. What we know is that you have to be there because there are certain things you need to, read from one junction to the other. For instance, when you get to the third angle there, you recite certain prayer Rabbana atina fid dunya hasanatan wa fil akhirati hasanatan wa qina adhaban until you get to the Babul Kaaba. And so these are rites around the Kaaba itself. But where
So you have to be at the
You
Kaaba.
have to be there, and that's why everybody go there. Otherwise, if you don't have to be there, then a lot of people will not travel, and they will still, enjoy the same rites here. But because in the Holy Quran, Almighty Allah says that inna awala baitin wudiya lil nas lalladhi bi bakkata mubarakan wa hudan lil alamin. This is the first house and this is my house. You will have to be there. We have a lot of stories, a lot of history about some prophets who will pass through Mecca. They will have gone to Jeddah, and Almighty Allah would, command them that, look, you've passed my house. They will go back there and still, perform that circuit. One of them is Prophet Sulaiman, who passed with his entourage at that time, and he did not say salam to the house. So, but another thing is with technology, I don't know, as time goes on, there may be fatwa to say that if you have Kaaba, anywhere you are, probably you can do something and circuit, but I haven't seen that. It's definitely probably not this generation because that's never happened. We should be there for us to perform that right.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. So now that this is where we are, what would be the advice you have for humanity, for the Muslim faithful and their brothers and sisters of other faith going forward?
What I will suggest is that, you see, all the evils that are really disturbing us in this country, they are things that if we take the learning points of Ramadan, they can solve those problems. The first one probably is leadership gap or leadership challenges, however we look at it. If I use the Greek philosophy, for example, you have people that are the selfish individual, that they call them idiots in that language. But I would say selfish individual. You also have some people who are tribalists, some sort of, and then you have a last group of people who are citizens. Ramadan teaches us to be a citizen, because you have to take care of everybody, not only yourself, not only your family, not only your religious group, but everybody that is around you. So this is a very huge lesson for us at all leadership level. The presidency, the governors, the ministers, the assignment is that everybody in the country must be taken care of. So this is the first learning point. Also, reading of the Holy Quran means that we have to live with knowledge, because in Nigeria, with due respect, there are a lot of people that I would say are powerful mediocres. People have been saying it. We live without knowledge, because somebody who thinks about himself alone is a mediocre. He might have a lot of resources to himself. So Ramadan also teaches us, to take care of others. So you can't do that. So you can't operate in ignorance. So definitely you have to operate with knowledge.
All right. Thank you very much, Barrister Alatoye Folorum Aziz, Amir Ahmadiyya, Muslim Jamaat, Nigeria. Thank you for coming on the show today.
Thanks.
So as we'll be back for the home stretch, please stay with us.